him having to take out some of his teammates with Raikou. It's an interesting dynamic that we have between these guys. Poike just had such a crazy year last year, Zico. What do you think this actual matchup is like for him mentally?
Well, I think this is a big statement here from Poike. I think Poike, of course, he was having a decent run last year in Tempo Storm, but then towards the end of the year, he got booted off that team for Botar. So now he has managed to get himself a new roster, and he is really trying to make a stand here, already making it to top 4. It's looking good for him, but he, of course, wants to be all the way up in that final. So for Poike, I think today is going to be very, very important.
If you're Poike, you get to kind of hide out under the shade too of one of your favorite classes. All of a sudden, he gets to play one of the strongest picks for him. How important do you think that is when we do look at the current meta and we look at Chaz, we look at Poike?
Well, I think for Poike, like you kind of talked about, it's always been his comfort pick, that Restoration Druid. He's tried to diversify to other healers, and he has done a pretty good job. Honestly, at the end of the tournament season last year, we all on the desk felt like he was peaking on all these different healer alts, but now being able to go back on the Restoration Druid, that comfort pick for him, I think is going to be really nice for his team.
It seemed like he had started to beat that a little bit, but it has always been his weakness, playing some of these other healers. He doesn't have to worry about that, at least not today. We're not expecting to see too many changes come out in that regard, and no surprise here, both of them going to be on the Druids. This is something that we've seen throughout the entirety of the tournament. Valet, though, going to be enabled by Team. This is a guy who wasn't able to use his class when he was playing with predominantly a rogue mage team that wanted to be incredibly aggressive. That has changed. Do you think that's going to be enough? You can vote with hashtag TM or hashtag MB in the chat. The gates are open. First match of the day.
This is the first time we've seen these two compositions in particular go head-to-head in a tournament setting, with the Shadow Priest Windwalker Monk against the Frost Mage Elemental Shaman, and we've been crediting a lot that this Frost Mage Elemental Shaman is one of the best compositions in the game. I'm curious to see how it fares head-to-head with such a peculiar combinations of classes in that Windwalker and Shadow Priest.
See, for me, I feel like Method Black have a nice little edge here in this matchup. Valet on the Shadow Priest, unfortunately, he doesn't have any ranged interrupts, although he has decent amounts of instant crowd control that he can put on Chaz with that silence. Let's see if he can follow it up at all. Doesn't have an interrupt to slow down Raikou and Swapsy when they want to get those free casts. Raikou really only has to deal with the melee Spear Hand Strike. Outside of that, he can basically free cast in this matchup, and eventually that Frost Mage damage will add up.
All right, Valet tried to set up some crowd control for his team, but Swapsy just took him out of the match with a well-timed Hex, and that is going to allow Chaz to easily recover through this initial assault. Fortunately for Acro, he hasn't actually committed too much damage just yet, and he could go for an all-out attack here very shortly. However, getting cycloned. Poike jumping at Chaz, maybe trying to threaten a cyclone, but then immediately just bounces back. And now playing at the pillar. Swapsy just focusing on maximizing his damage output at this point. We're waiting for that Lightning Lasso. That's going to be a very powerful hitting spell. As soon as you see that, you know things are about to go down. Acro, in the meantime, leading the charge, taking a lot of damage towards Raikou. There's that Lightning Lasso on Poike. Swapsy catches him in midfield, trying to burst him down out of here. Oh, in a hurry. Tons of Maledict healing absorbs incoming. Void Shift forced. Cyclone at low health, and that was a great Lightning Lasso timing by Swapsy. It's getting a ton of cooldowns from the team.
Yeah, it's super important, these Elemental Shamans, when these healers are midfield, to be targeting them, harassing them with damage with the Lightning Lasso, and you can see good Elemental Shamans like Swapsy consistently doing it. Poike is still in trouble. He actually trades out his Trinket. Cyclone onto Valet, Polymorph on Acro, and Poike is in a lot of trouble right now. He should be able to heal up. I don't think Raikou really has too much burst available currently, so I think team will be able to stabilize in this matchup, but this is not a great start for them.
Yeah, Poike is going to have to be careful. Swapsy just all over him on top of Poike start to finish, but Raikou isn't able to back him up, so it's just one-on-one, and Poike is likely to recover against an Elemental Shaman fairly easily. Raikou still just trying to deal with Acro in his face, dealing a ton of damage. We would like to see some crowd control thrown towards Chaz here if they're ultimately going to get a kill. Valet has most of the crowd control on his team. He's going to be the initiator, the one to start the fight, but he's been very patient and not really initiating anything just yet. With Chaz in center field, it could be an opportunity for him. He's still building up damage. That purple bar below his health, when that is completely full, he can go into void form and increase his damage massively. Activating it right now to dish out some damage, but Acro getting polymorphed away. Raikou respecting the damage output and denying it. Now unleashing that frozen orb and trying to lead the charge. There's Valet's initiation as he marches towards Chaz to get him crowd controlled. Swapsy is now the target, but Swapsy can break that crowd control with a Tremor Totem, allowing Chaz has to more than easily recover through this initial attack.
And here's one of the problems for the Windwalker Monk in this matchup is you don't really have too much support. Like I said, you don't have any ranged interrupts. So as the Windwalker Monk, as Acro, when you want to get aggressive on Raikou, unfortunately, you're falling right into that Resto Druid crowd control. In the meantime, Valet taking quite a bit of burst from Boyke into the Polymorph. Still no trinket available. Dispersion is forced out. Chaz now into a leg sweep. Acro trying to make a swap onto him, but I just don't think Team has the damage available to really scare him, especially Swapsy free casting those Elemental Shaman heals to back up Chaz.
Multiple Maledicts towards Valet, absorbing a lot of Minpoike's healing. Minpoike tanking a lot of interrupts and needs to get his act together. There's tons of pressure still as Valet ducks for cover. Raikou unable to get right there just yet. Minpoike getting pressured and Raikou finds a Polymorph, forcing Minpoike to use Gladiator's Medallion, and even still, but finally Acro carrying the team with damage right now towards Swapsy. Some pressure from the side of Team finally developing.
Yeah, a little bit of pressure there on Swapsy. They were able to force out the Iron Bark from Chaz, reducing that damage, as well as the Astral Shift from Swapsy. 2 defensive cooldowns, very powerful, but they don't necessarily have the longest cooldown. So Acro and Valet, they're going to have to look for a window during this moment where their burst damage and crowd control is going to be significant without any sort of damage reduction from Method Black.
Acro pinned down in center field, taking a ton of damage and barely able to escape to Minpoike's arms, where he is going to catch a couple of quick heals and start to restabilize. But this Elemental Shaman and this Frost Mage composition, if you spend too much time in the open with no interrupts, you are just going to get blasted. Let's see how well Valet and Acro can deal with that pressure. Acro is trying to set up, getting polymorphed away. Raikou generating icicles. Every Frost Bolt he casts gives him an icicle, so when he uses Ice Lance, it does even more damage. He wants 5 icicles to maximize that. Going for a flurry combo right now onto Valet, but now Acro intercepts with a leg sweep, denying any follow-up burst. Swapsy going for another lightning lasso, as we have now just stepped foot into dampening that number at the top of your screen, the red -2%. That means -2% healing in the game, and it increases over time. So at some point in this game, it's just going to be an overwhelming amount of damage that simply cannot be healed back. Currently, Chaz has the mana advantage. Minpoike needs to do something about that.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them in this matchup for sure. Valet getting interrupted there, slowing down some of that damage. Nicely done by Raikou. Polymorph onto Acro. Now Valet caught in midfield. Gets wind sheared once again. Raikou looking for some burst as well as Swapsy. There's a lightning lasso. Chaz pushing in, trying to close out the game. Bash into Polymorph. Good teamwork from Method Black. Chaz caught into the fear. Valet looking to slow down some of this crowd control on Minpoike so he can top him off. Ironbark is committed. And Valet, I think, ultimately will survive for that, especially on the pillow. It's going to be difficult for Swapsy and Raikou to find the damage that they need. A nice offensive Cyclone, slowing down the healing on Valet, sort of freezing his HP.
Yeah, Chaz definitely doing a great job with these Cyclones. Swapsy doing tons of damage. Valet pinned down and taking the brunt of it. Minpoike getting Cycloned, and Method Black are walking all over Team currently in this first game. Another Polymorph secured onto Minpoike. Valet forced to run away. Swapsy trying to surround him. Raikou on one side, Swapsy on the other, and Valet is pinned between a rock and a hard place. He's gonna have to make a decision. Does he just go aggressive? Raikou actually abandoning the kill for now, trying to stall it out and wait for crowd control diminishing returns before the next attack. If they can properly execute crowd control on both Minpoike and Valet, they can easily erase him from the arena. Currently, Raikou and Swapsy are repositioning. They want midfield as they're playing double ranged classes. This is forcing Acro into an awkward position and potentially could drag Minpoike out into the open. So keep your eyes on Acro, see how far he goes into the middle. If they're going to pressure him, they have managed to get Valet in center field, and as soon as they get someone baited there, they're going to try to pounce on top of Minpoike. Chaz moving forward. He's going to Cyclone Valet at low health, potentially move in. Acro intercepts. Minpoike trying to follow up that interception, but ends up falling behind and potentially getting Cyclone. No, gets denied on it. Minpoike trying to stop the push. Method Black are going to give up on this attack for now, but Minpoike is not looking good and healthy on that mana department, neither on cooldowns.
Yeah, Raikou doing a little bit of burst with his Frozen Orb over onto Acro, and he's kind of just sitting in it, forcing Acro to make a difficult decision. Does he sit in the Frozen Orb and take that Frost Mage damage, or does he kite away? So, unfortunately, he's going to be taking a little bit of burst. Minpoike should be able to heal through, but now at 16% dampening, this Elemental Shaman and Frost Mage damage is going to be significant. Acro with limited uptime actually forces out an Ice Block. Is that the Touch of Death? Okay, so Raikou didn't want to mess around. Touch of Death was committed by Acro. Chaz maybe didn't want to have to use his Iron Bark, so just going to trade that out. Nice, safe trade. Doesn't want to get bursted down.
Minpoike looking for Cyclones, finally getting some crowd control in favor for his team as he reverses it over. amazing cyclones right now by Minpoike, mashing them out on Chaz, trying to catch a trinket with one of them, getting 2 in a row. Swapsy's still low, but Valet is as well. Dampening mounts higher and higher. It's going to be difficult for both these druids to recover. It seems like Chaz is having a harder time, instead opting to use Cyclone and Valet and stop damage rather than simply heal through it. Minpoike tries to keep the chain going, but it's cost him a lot of mana to go for those, and now Chaz is initiating an attack. Valet needs to be careful. This is the lightning lasso of Swapsy. Acrolol trying to back him up, but it may not be enough. Dispersion has been forced. Valet has to retreat, and Method Black continue to have the momentum.
Yep, Raikou doing a good job kiting back once again, relying on Chaz to get that crowd control. So at any moment, Chaz can put a Cyclone on Acro, freezing his HP, and there's really not too much that team can do about it. With no ranged interrupts, this Mage and Resto Druid are going to be able to basically just free cast and really control this game, and I think that's going to be the game-winning factor for Method Black, is Raikou is just going to be able to put out devastating amounts of damage. Acro is going to have a limited amount of uptime, and team, I just feel like their only opportunity to win this game is with the instant crowd control of Valet. Maybe Minpoike needs to be able to push in and get a Bash Cyclone, but it's just so risky, and as a Shadow Priest, you just don't have the mobility, especially with how far away Chaz is playing.
Swapsy and Raikou with midfield advantage in their composition were able to buy Chaz enough breathing room to sit down for a drink, regenerate his mana, and have a 50% lead over Minpoike. At this point, it is not looking good for team. Amazing timing on that counterspell by Raikou. Now they just need damage to back it up. Frozen Orb is placed. Raikou trying to tear in. Valet feeling the brunt of that exchange. Needs to be careful here. Dipping lower and lower. Holds on to that Void Shift, then trades it and gets crushed right through it. With a well-placed Wind Shear, Valet holds on by a thread, but with that Bash, likely to go down. Potentially a Cyclone from Chaz. Chaz on fire. Valet will go down. Method Black looks solid in game 1.
Method Black looks unrelenting in game number 1, and we look at this game all in all too, and it's 2 pairings that I definitely think are interesting to talk about on the DPS side, right? We have Swapsy and Raikou, which we talk about, you know, you look at Method Black last year, and it seems like these 2 getting paired together is something that's somewhat underutilized, and then you look on the side of Valet and Acro, and you probably say the same thing on their former team as well, Zico.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see Valet play that much with Acro in a couple of Rogue Shadow Priest games last year, but now they are going to be trying out that Windwalker Shadow Priest. It's an interesting composition. I think they weren't expecting Method maybe to run this particular comp. Maybe they thought they were going to go against that Demon Hunter Death Knight that we saw earlier, or maybe the Rogue Mage even. However, Method Black coming in with a smart pick here, playing that Mage Elemental Resto Druid. We've been talking about it a whole bunch here on the desk, but now to finally get to see it in action, it's nice. This comp is very sturdy. You have a lot of burst potential, and of course, if the game drags on forever, you're going to have that Resto Druid in your back pocket to kind of keep you going.
A little bit off guard. Now they are going to choose that with the composition pick in their advantage. Dollar and Sewers is going to be the map, nice and small, close quarters. We have to take into account how that will come into play, but before we discuss the map in particular, Zico, I do want to talk about Valet and Gelu, because these are 2 players now that they didn't get to play very much last year, and it wasn't because they weren't good. It wasn't even necessarily because the specs that they played weren't good. It just came down to their team not being able to fully utilize them. Do you think that there is going to be somewhat of a position where maybe they're overutilized now in these early stages of the tournament?
Well, I think it's a better situation to be in, right? You want to be the player that has to play almost all the time, but then still be able to kind of incorporate everybody else. On their previous rosters, they just weren't able to do that. Valet playing with Radapai wasn't able to play that Shadow Priest, Resto Druid, Shadow Priest, Resto Shaman synergy that we'd like to see. And the same thing goes for Ghetto. Of course, he didn't really have a rogue.
Now, the folks at home are going to say, hey, we saw last year what Method Black can do. We expect them to do it again. If they're able to take this down, once again, they've matched the performance that they had in the first tournament of the year last year. They're going to try to get themselves on match point and get that started right here.
Method Black lead in this elimination best of 5. The loser of this will be going home. The winner will have a chance to earn even more points in the tournament, and it's very important to establish that point lead to qualify to the spring finals later this year. Minpoike makes his return. He had a bit of a disappointing end of his year last year, but he's back even stronger to battle it out here with his new team. but facing Method Black is not an easy task to accomplish. Acro getting crowd controlled as Raikou pushes forward. He wants to support Swapsy on this initial attack, and there's a lot of damage to back it up. Chaz engages with crowd control. Multiple Maledicts flying in towards Valet. Swapsy constantly pressuring him. Acro trying to force him away, and he has finally managed to give Valet some breathing room, but Minpoike is still separated quite a distance away.
Yeah, Acro finally getting some offense here. Leg sweep with the images, Storm, Earth, and Fire. It's going to increase his damage onto Swapsy. He uses the Astral Shift and the Trinket in response. Chaz now throwing out the Iron Bark. Touch of Death was committed, so it's a completely fair trade by Method Black. If they can just survive these all-ins, they're going to be in a good spot. Meantime, Valet getting bursted down, forced into the dispersion, and Poike with no Iron Bark didn't have the healing to keep him alive, and that was a really nice knock there, I believe, by Swapsy that put Valet in that position.
And the map selection from team is backfiring, having to trade Dispersion because Swapsy was able to use the elevated top level to knock Valet down to the bottom is not what team wanted to have happen, and Method Black are turning the tables on the map selection. Counterspell timing once again by Raikou as they engage for a kill, potentially before dampening. Valet needs to be careful, looking for Mass Dispel, but Minpoike doesn't want to risk it. He breaks out of the crowd control and ends up saving the day for now, but he will not have the option to do that for another minute and 50 seconds. So if that situation occurs again, it could be grim for his team.
I just feel bad for Acro. Finally, with a leg sweep, he gets some uptime over onto Swapsy, but it is just so devastating as a Windwalker Monk to be caught in the open against the Frostmage and the Resto Druid, and that's really why I just feel like this matchup is not great for team. Acro finally trying to get a little bit of damage rolling onto Raikou. Valet going to be using his Psychic Core, that stun, onto Raikou.
Oh, he Shadow Meld the bash.
Ooh, Valet's in some trouble.
That was sick play from Chaz, really just on fire. It's not easy to Shadow Meld a melee range stun. Chaz just on another level here today, facing against Minpoike, and I'm curious to see if they can turn the tide. Finally, Valet getting some crowd control, but Swapsy breaks it out. Now Minpoike locked down in crowd control. If there's anything to follow up this bash, it could be devastation. Nothing just yet, but maybe just raw damage is enough. Valet is just constantly on the run and unable to generate any sort of windows of opportunity, and I do not like the composition they have crafted for this series.
Me neither. But double leg sweep on Raikou with the Cyclone on Chaz. This is the moment team can actually get something rolling. Raikou's trying to run away. He's trying to get Polymorph spam onto Valet, onto Acro, slow them down. They're only going to lose in these burst windows, so if they can just manage to weather the storm, hold on a little bit longer, they will be able to survive. Touch of Death into Iron Bark from Acro. Raikou should get bursted down a little bit. There's the Maledict Trinket as well. Really committing here to take down Raikou, but with no crowd control on Chaz, I just feel like he should be able to heal through it.
All right, Raikou finally getting pressured here as team develops some momentum. They do manage to snag themselves an ice block, keeping themselves in the match. We can't count them out just yet, and if they can make it to late stages of dampening for a burst moment like that, they could take Raikou's life. Valet, in the meantime, needs to duck for cover, and this is why they selected such a small map, so they can constantly move to points of line of sight, but Swapsy just doesn't even seem to care. He's just bullying the enemy team, constantly standing on top of them, getting dispersion kind of randomly in
I feel like Valet
position.
fat-fingered that. Valet was 100% HP with Iron Bark from Minpoike, and he just dispersed for no reason.
That is not, okay, I was crediting them. Okay, they were coming back into the match, and then they just threw it away again, so Method Black not really making any mistakes, whereas the side of team are starting to crack in that regard. Chaz in a great position with Innervate activated. All of his heals are free. He can avoid all of the potential dispels and heal his team and get a more established mana advantage over Minpoike. Swapsy once again wants to just get on top of Valet. Seems very difficult for Valet to really get anything going outside of Acro's Touch of Death windows.
Yeah, now Acro, Polymorph, Swapsy, Raikou, Chaz looking like they want to turn their attention. Skyfear Totem gets dropped down. Swapsy looking for a bit of additional burst. Acro with some decent pressure here, but now caught into the full Cyclone. Unfortunately, doesn't look like he's going to be able to get out of that. Now Raikou and Swapsy, they're pushing in on Minpoike, who's playing very aggressive in this position. He wanted to try to support Acro, but now caught in the midfield. He has to use his Bark Skin, he has to use his Iron Bark. He's trying to get away. Double Maledict coming in from Swapsy and Raikou, but Minpoike managed to escape.
Yeah, we've now entered dampening, where the healing will be reduced and things will get more stressful. A situation like that from Minpoike is unlikely to recover the deeper we get into dampening, so he needs to be even more careful. The mistakes that they are getting away with before dampening, they absolutely will not get away with in dampening. And Method Black, I've really not seen any significant mistakes on their part, so team need to make some moves here, do a ton of damage for one big push. They currently have Touch of Death available, and activating it right now, that red glowing icon below Acro, it increases his damage immensely as he is targeting down down Raikou. Chaz responds and trades for it appropriately. Let's see if it will be enough as Valet continues the crowd control chain. Indeterminate here as Chaz decides to trinket out and reverse the pressure with a swap on Minpoike. Swapsy has been on guard for his team aggressively, constantly keeping momentum for them and really denying team the opportunity to stay out in the fight long enough to get anything done.
Well, I like what Swapsy is doing. He knows that Raikou and Chaz, they're more than enough to handle Acro. Eventually, they will get crowd control on him. So what Swapsy has to do is play point guard. He has to make sure he's interrupting Valet and interrupting Minpoike, really threaten Minpoike from pushing in and getting any sort of follow-up cyclones or bashes on Chaz without Minpoike really thinking twice about it.
All right, Acro stuck in midfield, gets vortexed on his portal. Great timing by Chaz. It's almost like he didn't leave the BlizzCon stage last year, particularly in this match. Acro getting exposed, but no damage to follow it up. It's going to require a bit more dampening to be able to get that opportunity again. But once I've seen it so many times, team just making these mistakes, and eventually it's going to cost them, and they'll be down 2-0 in an elimination series, one loss away from going home. And I would like them to see it try a different composition. This one just seems to not be getting anything done. Acro in desperation goes after Chaz to try and burst him down, finding only about half of his health, but not even getting a bark skin. Chaz just easily walks that off. Now getting Cyclone though, but Minpoike's exposed himself, and this positioning is dangerous for him against the Mage and the Elemental Shaman. He ducks around the corner down the stairs, but now they switch their attention to Valet. Raikou and Swapsy perfectly in sync on these swaps. Two different targets. Maledict's committed here as Valet is in trouble. He opts to not trade Dispersion, ducks around the corner, but his healer is still crowd controlled and unable to heal.
Yeah, he gets bashed too. Valet getting low, taken down.
Oh.
Such greedy plays from Valet. He tried to life grip Minpoike over behind the pillar so he could heal him up, but Minpoike getting bashed by Chaz. Valet left all alone. The Stormkeeper damage from Swapsy too much, and man, that did not look good for team.
You look at this game, though, and you talk about Valet having to make greedy plays or seeing him make greedy plays, and it almost does feel like with this composition, Zico, he has to do everything if they are going to win. How much pressure is on Valet if they're going to keep running this comp?
Well, he just needs to keep his cooldowns for, those later stages of dampening. If he has to burn through his Void Shift and his Dispersion and all of his big cooldowns really this early on in the game, it's not going to be beneficial for them later on. And I really do think that Team's comp, it needs high amounts of dampening before those Shadow Priest dots really are going to be very effective towards those Resto Druid healing over time effects. So in order to be able to take down Raikou here, you need that Shadow Priest damage to really ramp up, and to get to that point, you kind of have to play greedy, but at the same time, this was overly greedy. I mean, you could have just dispersed here or just used something. He had a lot of cooldown still at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the Elemental Shaman is a powerful ranged damage dealer, and it specializes heavily against melee classes, so it can do well against things like the Warrior Death Knight combo of classes, or these types, Windwalker Death Knight, and is typically used to counterpick into those. But Assassination Rogue in particular is basically the best spec in the game you can take against Elemental Shaman, which is why I'm surprised to not see Acro having gone to it in the last game. And then Fire Mage just backs the Rogue up with some instant cast damage, and then of course the Druid just being the strongest healer currently is the best way to heal those two classes.
Team breaks out a new composition. They need to get it working and off the ground quickly. They're facing elimination in this game.
Yeah, Raikou in invisibility right now. Same with Fried Kitty, so we'll have to see how they decide to open up. It's likely team is going to be going after Swapsy. That was Sap on Swapsy. Acro trying to find Chaz in stealth, but Chaz manages to avoid him.
All right, Swapsy is likely playing a lot of personal defensive defensive talent selections. He's going to be in Ghost Wolf for quite a lot of this match, just running around the pillar, and he can actually avoid Acro if he just plays in Ghost Wolf while his healer is crowd controlled, which is exactly what he's doing, but he ends up walking right back to Acro. Now they're both going to connect. This could be devastating for Method Black, but not enough damage as team played it slow on their cooldowns. They're looking for a bait, and Swapsy just not falling for that bait. Maledict's committed as they try to go potentially to bait more cooldowns. Swapsy just not falling for any of those baits. The combinations of talents that he's run make his Ghost Wolf incredibly durable, and it's going to be difficult for them to kill him. Fried Kitty needs to look to dispel that Ghost Wolf when Swapsy is in a kidney shot. Otherwise, Swapsy is not going to go down.
Yeah, so basically what happens, team looks to get aggressive, and then it is up to, whoa, Fried Kitty taking a lot of damage. Cauterize is forced out, as well as the trinket from Minpoike and Ironbark. Fried Kitty looking for the Dragon's Breath, Ring of Frost. Unfortunately not able to find it. Minpoike following it up with the PR crowd control. Full polymorph secured by Fried Kitty. Pulls the trigger on the combustion, looking for big damage on Swapsy, but Raikou just controlling everyone up. Swapsy behind the pillar, running in Ghost Wolf, and it just seems like team, they're not able to find the momentum they need.
Yep, Swapsy getting into his Ghost Wolf tank and then running laps, waiting for Kidney Shot to go on cooldown, and as soon as Kidney Shot isn't available, then he looks to attack and counter-aggress, and we saw how much damage he was able to do to Fried Kitty in that moment. But if he makes the decision to attack beforehand, it's a risky one, and right now he is trying to do some damage while Acro is playing at the pillar. They may even just switch targets. Swapsy has made himself such an annoyance. They're actually going to go after Raikou instead, and he is not the better target overall, but Swapsy's play has made it impossible for Acro to connect, and now they are forced off of the best target to Raikou. Now going back into Swapsy, I think switching between the two when Swapsy exposes himself could be a good opportunity. I definitely don't want to see them commit to Raikou for too long.
Yeah, Swapsy is definitely the bigger threat of the two in this matchup, but like you said, every time teams looking to get aggressive, seems like Method Black, they have the perfect answer with Swapsy running away and Raikou just spamming out snares and polymorphs, slow down Fried Kitty and Acro during their burst windows. And Method Black, they've seemed very solid in this matchup. Honestly, I feel like team, they have the composition advantage, but with the way Method Black is playing, it makes it difficult for team to get anything done.
All right, Swapsy, he's left open, and we saw in the first two games that he can hard carry if he's left open too long, so let's see what he can get done. Actually getting cycloned by Minpoike. Crowd controlling Swapsy is a good option if they aren't going to attack him and deny him from being a threat through that method. And we see Windshear landed on Minpoike, polymorph on Acro as they set up a 3-on-1 towards Fried Kitty with Lightning Lasso. Swapsy positions around the corner to avoid interrupts and crowd control. Swapsy's positioning is just on point. You can really tell that Method Black are here to play, making absolutely no mistakes. Acro finding a Kidney Shot, but they need to spell steal off the Ghost Wolf. And is Fried Kitty not playing Kleptomania? He should just save it for that timing during Kidney Shot to remove it. Otherwise, Swapsy is just easily escaping these situations.
I'm really curious to see if Fried Kitty is playing that Kleptomania. He's not playing Temporal Shield, so I think it's likely, but like you said, they need to get the Kleptomanias every time they get crowd control, remove the Ghost Wolf from Swapsy, get all those heal over time effects off, because Swapsy just hasn't been taking any damage. Astral Shift is going to be used. Swapsy looking to run away once again. Chaz caught into the polymorphs. This could be scary. Double Maledict Trinket going to be used on the Swapsy to absorb some of that healing. Triple Maledict Trinket. Chaz has no choice. He has to Trinket out, uses the Iron Bark. This is much better of a go from team. They were able to force out a lot of defensive cooldowns, and Swapsy still could be in some trouble.
They finally were able to get Swapsy out of Ghost Wolf and secure crowd control on Chaz, and as a result got a lot of cooldowns, which now leaves Swapsy even more vulnerable. If he even makes one mistake, one Ghost Wolf timing, one positional mistake, he will go down. And you can see already he's kiting away from the fight. He wants as much distance as possible so he has time to react to the attack, immediately retreating and line of sighting Fried Kitty. He has to avoid spell steal. He doesn't really care if Acro is attacking him in Ghost Wolf, but if Fried Kitty gets in line of sight here during this, which is a Kidney Shot, and dispels Ghost Wolf, he'll be in trouble. If he doesn't, which he hasn't, then he's going to take absolutely no damage. Fried Kitty needs to spell steal this or nothing will be accomplished. Acro and him need to coordinate better.
Yeah, they definitely do. Acro committing his Shadow Step before any crowd control has even been initiated, so definitely pulling the trigger with the Smoke Bomb, with the Kidney Shot way too early there. Fried Kitty was nowhere to be found. And if they want to have any hope at taking down Swapsy, especially through that Ghost Wolf, they need to have a coordinated effort with their damage.
All right, they've managed to catch him in a Kidney Shot without Ghost Wolf, but no crowd control on Chaz, so he just easily heals Swapsy back to full, and it's not an easy task to coordinate crowd control into multiple members, but they're a top caliber team. They're fully capable of it, and they need to start doing it. They're on match point. They can't afford to lose this match, or they will be going home. No more opportunities for mistakes. They need to clean up their game. Dampening has just started, and inevitably will end the match, and I do believe in favor of Method Black. Team need a miracle at this moment. They are actually exposed with no way to get out of crowd control on Acro and Minpoike. With no Cloak of Shadows, Acro is a vulnerable target, opting to play defensive at the wooden fences in the back line, going after Raikou and stall him out. But Acro now crossing into midfield. This is a bit dangerous. Swapsy is just unloading a ton of damage onto Acro as he flies across the battlefield. Swapsy lightning lassos him. This could be dangerous. Minpoike will stall out the damage and save him for now, but this is just more and more in favor of Method Black.
Yeah, Fried Kitty has the combustion. Acro has his Vendetta, very powerful offensive cooldowns, but Swapsy has a good response with the Astral Shift. Chaz has Trinket and his Iron Bark. Here's a Kidney Shot. Good burst damage coming in from Fried Kitty and Acro. doesn't look like he's going to be able to get those hots off. Unfortunately, Swapsy's still just healing up. Even though Chaz is in the crowd control, Swapsy's able to survive in the Ghost Wolf, despite Vendetta and Combustion being used. And Swapsy, he didn't even commit his Astral Shift. I just don't know where the damage is going from team.
I mean, it's going right into the Ghost Wolf, Spectral Recovery, and Spirit Wolf talents. I'm wondering if he's even running the Pack Spirit Azerite trait. He may be. Swapsy knows he needs to be as tanky as possible, so he could have committed that tier of Azerite traits to just make his Ghost Wolf even more potent, plus the powerful Restoration Druid hots. If you don't remove those, either of those, let alone just one, Swapsy not going to take damage. Maybe in Dampening, he will start to, but Spirit Wolf reduces damage by 20%. It's not just healing, so I'm not sure. And Minpoike's mana isn't looking too good. He's trying to set up some crowd control on Chaz. Acro can't even connect to the target. Swapsy just running laps around him. I would like to see them go for a Lightning Lasso soon, but they are unable, caught in crowd control. Once again, no spell steal. I don't know what Fried Kitty is spell stealing, but he should only be doing it when Swapsy is stunned, because he cannot go back into Ghost Wolf while he is stunned. So the timing is either just not being used or it's just being used in the wrong point. Fried Kitty getting bursted here as Swapsy is trying to get counter aggression. Raikou alone could probably burn the rest of Minpoike's mana if Swapsy just wants to run laps, and they've basically got team in checkpoint unless they can clean up their game.
Minpoike is looking like he wants to sit down for a drink. We'll have to see if it gets stopped. Minpoike actually got a lot of mana there, so he's able to sit down, sip the water, regenerate his mana as long as he's out of combat. And unfortunately, Raikou and Swapsy weren't able to shut that down. Fried Kitty now charging in, looking for a fireball, but I just have to agree with you. Said they need a coordinated effort. Looks like Swapsy is going to be getting the Iron Bark from Chaz. Chaz goes into cat form, gets a bash on Minpoike, looking for some cross counter or some cross crowd control. Try to slow down Minpoike and Fried Kitty just a little bit here. Swapsy able to shrug it off and survive quite easily.
Yeah, since the recent Azerite trait changes, I would imagine Swapsy is likely running Pack Spirit, which means it was basically buffed as every other Azerite trait was nerfed 50%. I believe it was nerfed incredibly harder than that, so his Ghost Wolf is super potent, and he's obviously practiced and figured that out, and that's why during these attempts he takes basically no damage. However, Fried Kitty has a tool to remove it and just simply isn't committing it. We finally see damage towards Swapsy as Dampening mounts up, and these Azerite traits will not be as potent, the healing will not be as strong overall, and Swapsy could actually inevitably fall due to that account. We do see Polymorph snuck in on Minpoike. Raikou with the hard carry. They managed to get Gladiator's Medallion. That creates an opening for Method Black. They're in the lead. They just need this one win to advance, and they will knock team out of the tournament. Crowd control continues, but no damage just yet as team move forward for this assault. Swapsy needs to be careful and trade cooldowns efficiently, just kiting around the pillar and avoiding Acro. Raikou with a nice Frost Nova as well. With that Frost Mage support slowing the Rogue and the Mage, and Swapsy's ability to kite and Ghost Wolf, it can be quite frustrating, but here finally another attack towards Swapsy, and they do manage to remove the Ghost Wolf, so Swapsy will take some heat as he immediately starts retreating away again. Now this next Lightning Lasso could close the game out, so keep your eyes open for it.
Yeah, although Swapsy, he's surviving, the damage output isn't that high. Now in this swap with the Lightning Lasso, Acro getting low, no Cloak of Shadows, and Poike trying to keep him alive with the Iron Bark, but the damage might just be too much coming in from Raikou and Swapsy. Beautiful cross crowd control, Ring of Frost on Chaz, Polymorph on Raikou, Blind on Chaz, Kidney Shot on Swapsy. Team doing everything they can to survive, but also turn around the pressure on Method Black. Swapsy did get a little bit low there, still has his Astral Shift, so although they did survive that go, they weren't able to really pull out any defensives.
Yeah, Swapsy, he needs to defend first, then attack. Defend, attack, defend, attack, and that is typically how you have to play against Rogue Mages there. If you go head-to-head attacking, you're the one that always falls behind. So Swapsy currently at the back end of an assault, but looks to counter aggression with that Lightning Lasso. Fried Kitty breaks it up with a Dragon's Breath. Now Swapsy on the run to safety with Chaz behind the pillar here. Dampening mounts up higher and higher, and healing will become difficult. However, another Lightning Lasso attempt on Acro at this dampening point. I'm not sure if he actually makes it out alive, especially when we combine in those Gladiator's Maledict's trinkets to absorb even more incoming healing. The same could be true, though, for Swapsy potentially to be taken down, as they do secure a Kidney Shot, spell steal all of the heal over time effects, secure crowd control on Chaz. However, Chaz has preemptively activated a defensive cooldown Iron Bark, which reduces damage, but at 34% dampening, it may not even matter. Swapsy in trouble. Chaz still locked out of the match. Swapsy basically all alone. Raikou is trying to support him, but inevitably, team may be able to close this out. Star Search from Minpoike actually gets bashed by Chaz, as Swapsy needs to stabilize one more time for a counter push. But Acro actually has an answer to that, and if he simply just trinket trades and stays aggressive, Swapsy could fall. Fried Kitty has finally found that spell steal ability, and it is finally creating pressure pressure for their team, so they have the opportunity to win still.
Yeah, Spell Steal and 38% dampening, definitely going to be effective at taking down Swapsy. Acro, if he has high uptime, this is the point of the game where Chaz, you really can't heal through it anymore, and those Ghost Wolf trades aren't going to be nearly as effective. So the longer this goes, although Method Black is surviving, their counter pressure really isn't there. I mean, Minpoike still has his Trinket, he has Iron Bark, Acro has the Cloak of Shadows, Fried Kitty has the Ice Block, and if Swapsy all he's doing is running in this match, he's forcing the long game, which I just feel like isn't necessarily the best. I think Acro and Fried Kitty will eventually be able to take him down.
Yeah, he's currently in a situation where his healer Chaz is crowd controlled and unable to heal. He's got Acro right on his back, and at this point it may be difficult for Chaz to recover. Dampening is just so incredibly high. The Frost Novas from Raikou on Acro here are the only thing keeping Swapsy in the fight. Fried Kitty trying to take out Swapsy on his own, but not able to, and actually getting counter-pressured as Method Black switch their attention to Fried Kitty. Chaz has reverse crowd control. Multiple Maledicts as they Cyclone Fried Kitty at low health, and Minpoike used Iron Bark on that, so the Chaz on fire here with these Cyclones. Method Black are looking good to close this. Capacitator Totem, Fried Kitty in trouble. This could easily be his major defensive cooldown Ice Block if they can keep up the momentum. Swapsy has space, but Acro denies it. Chaz steps over for a kidney shot, drops the smoke bomb, trying to bait out an Astral Shift, but Swapsy is not falling for that and just goes for the kill instead. Method Black look like a Terminator team, just impenetrable at this point with Fried Kitty so dangerously low. Minpoike with not very much left to respond. Cauterize Ice Block forced out, and one more attack from Method Black, who is likely to close this game.
Yeah, Fried Kitty, I think, is the best target at this point. If Raikou and Swapsy can coordinate their interrupts on Fried Kitty, stop the polymorphs, he's going to be stuck. He's going to be snared. He won't be able to counter pressure, and I think at 50% dampening, he could eventually fall, especially with one good Kleptomania from Raikou if he is playing it. Now, a Lightning Lasso over on the Fried Kitty. Iron Bark going to be used by Minpoike. Chaz pushing in, looking for CC. Gets the Cyclone on Minpoike. He has his Trinket. He has to use it. Fried Kitty getting lower. He doesn't have Cauterize. He doesn't have Ice Block. Can Minpoike top him off? Raikou just free casting the Frost Bolts. Fried Kitty trying to run away. And like you said, I think Method Black, they just have them in a chokehold.
I mean, at this point, Fried Kitty doesn't have anything left. And yep, Swapsy's just going to delete him from the game. Method Black assert dominance here. They look like a different tier of team in this tournament, and they're going to stay in it. Minpoike and his team are going to have to go home and go back to the drawing board to figure out a better answer.
And I think the big question is here, does that really come down to some of the picks that we saw? Maybe, sure, blind pick, you give them the advantage there. Maybe you're expecting something different. But headed into game number 2, when they do have that advantage on their side, was the pick the main problem, Zico?
I think the main problem seems to be that Fried Kitty just isn't playing Fire Mage as well as his Frost Mage, I think.
Okay.
I think Fried Kitty, he had good talent selection in this game. I agree with most of what he did, but just small things like here, he misses his Dragon's Breath. In general, wasn't really able to get the better end of Raikou. Raikou was kind of controlling him a little bit more than you want to be controlled in this situation, and it wasn't really able to get those big one-shot setups that we like to see with Acro. Sometimes they just weren't on the same page. Acro going for a step kidney shot smoke bomb, and Fried Kitty doesn't have his blink available. Fried Kitty maybe doesn't have his Klepto available. Communicating that with Acro. When you play Fire Assassination, it just comes down to, can you set up those big burst moments and execute on them? And unfortunately for them, they weren't. Method Black was an impenetrable wall.
You can call them whatever you want. They look darn good. You just have to look at the facts here. We no longer see 2 of the top teams in the world, of course, from another region, even making it this far in the tournament. Look, Method Orange doesn't even make it to the top 8. We don't even get to see them on broadcast this week. And